Welcome to the Expat Empire Podcast, the podcast where you can hear from expats around the world and learn how you can join them. Hey guys, before we get to the interview, I want to remind you that we're offering free 30-minute consulting calls to anyone interested in moving abroad. Whether you're thinking about retiring somewhere warm, starting the next chapter of your international career, or even becoming a digital nomad, we're ready to help you think through the next steps in your journey. Send us a message at expatempire.com and schedule a call today. With that said, let's start the conversation. Hi Ulane, thanks so much for joining us today on the Expat Empire Podcast.
Well, really glad to be here. Hope it's going to be an interesting conversation.
I think so, definitely. I've been excited to speak with you. Of course, we met a couple months ago at a Web Summit in Lisbon, which was a great time, and got to go to one of your events through the Estonian e-Residency program. Really enjoyed that, met some great people. And it's been a program that I've been interested in personally, and I've seen in use in some of my previous employers as well. And I'm excited to share that with our audience today, of course, with your experience and what you've been able to do with the program and sharing it for other entrepreneurs out there that are thinking about where to start their business.
Well, I hope I can share my experiences, both from personal experience and from those of the e-residents that we have.
Yeah, definitely. So let's go ahead and dive into it. It'd be great just to hear a bit about your background, of course, where you're from. And I know that you've spent some time in different countries around the world, and your region is also in Asia. But of course, really would like to dive into your entrepreneurial background as well. So would just love to hear some of the highlights.
Yeah, you know how Facebook shows you these like memories, pops up like memories from years ago. And I just realized that about 11 years ago, I quit my day job. I was working in HR in a quite large real estate agency. But then I quit my job and I started a couple of tourism businesses with my friend. And I had posted on Facebook that my office hours have changed from 9 to 5 to 11 to 7. So don't call me outside of these hours.
Those are much more comfortable hours for me too. Yeah.
I am so not a morning person. And so that was one of the really nice things that happened to me 11 years ago, that I was able to really plan my life around my own personal goals in business, because nobody really tells you like what you have to do. It's really up to you, right? So we built essentially two businesses. One was a tour company that was taking people who came here to the Baltics. I live in Tallinn, in the capital of Estonia, who came here to the Baltics. We took them around with guided tours in small groups, minibuses, and then expanded to Central Europe at some point as well, to Prague and Budapest. So at the height before COVID started, we had 50 guides in 5 countries.
Wow.
That were working full time from April to October for us. And then the other business that I built was a travel platform. So I got into this kind of startup scene. We built a page where you could basically get in touch with locals in various cities. It was quite active in Europe. And we managed to raise €500,000 at some point. And so we built it for 7 years altogether. So that's what I did before I realized that tourism is a very hard sector to be in during COVID.
Yeah. It sounds like it was going quite well before then. So, I mean, COVID surprised everybody, of course, but I can imagine it was a tough couple of months. And of course, maybe realization or sort of readjustment as far as your life and your businesses. So did you ultimately decide to wind those down? And how did you sort of transition from that entrepreneurial experience into working with the Estonian government?
Yeah, so as you imagine, being mainly geared towards overseas traveler, 99.99% towards the overseas traveler, then the situation in Europe has not quite restored since 2020 March. So both of the businesses still exist, but they're functioning on sort of like minus 95% revenue level. So we were quite big, but I think it's going to take some time until this industry really recovers, because if you're in the hospitality business, your customer segment may change. The local traveler may stay in your hotel, but if you are really doing guided tours, it's a whole different world.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure some locals would still enjoy that, but it's definitely, of course, much more geared to the people who are coming from out of town, right?
Exactly, and so we had to refund and cancel, like, for months and months in a row, and it was kind of a forced vacation for me, because I've always been able to constantly be doing something and really excited about it because it's been my passion. And so when I noticed that e-residency was looking for people to join their team, then I was thinking, like, I can actually be with entrepreneurs, people who are trying to run interesting businesses, and usually like interesting small businesses, right? Like, it's not like huge corporations. So I was like, oh, this is like perfect. So I've been with the team now for over a year.
That's great. And in terms of your own entrepreneurial experience, did you find the e-residency program, or I mean, at least Estonia as a business environment, to be really beneficial for you as a business owner? Was there anything that stuck out from that experience? I guess perhaps for you, it was just normal. You're from there. That's the place that you were living. So you'd set up there. But did you consider other options or think through maybe some of the benefits or potential challenges that come with incorporating there?
Well, I didn't have to, right? So I always like to tell this sort of like an anecdotal experience. For example, that when I was 23, straight out of university, instead of starting to apply for jobs, I registered a limited liability company just in case. Because I was thinking, okay, like maybe some interesting projects will come around where I will be hired as a contractor. And so in Estonia, it's so straightforward and so simple that everybody who does something on the side, let's say you are copywriting for somebody, you're doing some design work, or you're a web developer, like everybody has a company, because it's just so easy and inexpensive to own one. Not a lot of bureaucracy, and accounting services are reasonable. So that was for me like one way to look at my situation straight out of university. I'm just going to be open to many different options. And so I registered my first business when I was 23, and this business still exists because I every once in a while teach at a couple of business universities as well. So I build through that. And all of us here, we use this ID card that has a chip. It's a smart card. We don't actually use that physical card because there's now obviously like more advanced methods of logging in. But e-residency card is nothing but that same card, just without the travel document feature. So everybody who is not from Estonia, not used to having a limited liability companies from the age of 23, basically it gives them the exact same simplicity that they can log on to our public services online, register company online. I had to do it a couple of months ago for myself because I'm doing a little bit of real estate investing with a friend. And so I actually went through the company registration process again online. It took me about 15 minutes. And then in 3.5 hours, the company was registered and ready to really start invoicing. So
Yeah, it's quite an amazing thing. Just the openness to business there, and even seeing, for me, it was shocking to visit the country and visit Tallinn. I thought it was a great place. Really enjoyed it. In fact, applied to a few jobs there, thinking about the potential of moving there at some time now, a couple of years ago. But in that process, I was waiting at the airport coming back to Berlin, where I was living at the time, and I was just floored to see information about the e-residency program, about investments, about different things in flyers at the airport. So, I mean, really the country is, sort of the next level, really thinking ahead for the future and about being people creating businesses kind of based anywhere around the world and being more nomadic or this or that, having access to the market in the EU as well. So really it's impressive stuff, but I'd love to hear from your perspective, what basically the e-residency program is, what the main things to consider are for people that might be looking into it, what it actually means. I think sometimes people think it's more of a visa as opposed to this or that. So it'd be good just if you could break it down for us and show really who it's best fitted for.
So e-residency is a status that is given to a private individual. So it's actually not given to a company, but it's a status that's given to a non-resident of Estonia that issues them a digital ID. So in the eyes of our public sector, in the eyes of our government, they are identified from distance with the help of this digital ID. And it's very, very secure. it's equal to a real signature in Estonia. So anything that you do and you sign with this card, it's that there's no way out of this. This is legally binding. It's the highest level of security. And so once a private individual is an e-resident, then they are able to use all of our public services. So let's say you want to start a business and you're an e-resident, then you can do it. But if you have a co-founder, then for them to be a shareholder as well and to be part of that company registration process, they would individually need to be an e-resident as well. And yes, there are some misconceptions about e-residency very often, especially when people from outside of the EU apply. They sometimes think that this is going to grant them either visa or residency permit or the possibility to work here legally or whatever else, but it really doesn't. It's basically just a status of somebody who is in their own country. It does not in any way reflect in your real residency. So you basically are just identified here on very secure level.
So why exactly would you want to do that, especially for people coming from outside the EU, for example? What are the real benefits to that, and what would make someone a good fit for this program?
So we see largely like two big groups who are applying for e-residency. There are people who are from very old and established economies, where doing something like Estonia did in the early 90s to make all your people use this ID card is very hard. So to take your country to this like digitalized society level, it's something that is just really hard to actually execute. And so they are used to running their businesses in this kind of a bureaucratic situation, and they see that some countries are doing it better. They see how it could be more transparent and quicker and less going to places, standing in lines, whatever. So we see a lot of those people coming from actually old European countries. I would just make a general sort of name for it, and they like the low bureaucracy level. They like the ease of being able to just use these very online-based, SaaS-based accounting services, and just like being anywhere. I was just recently talking to somebody originally from Spain, and they were an e-resident. They said, one time I was in a hammock somewhere on my honeymoon, and the Estonian tax office told me that my company's tax report needs to be submitted. So he was right there in his hammock and did it through his smartphone. so being able to do that's one side of it. And the second side is when you are not from within the EU single market area, then there are many reasons why you want to have a base here, why you want to be established here. And these reasons vary from sector to sector. Let's say you are a startup founder and you want to raise international capital. You want to go to like European VCs, and you are from a country that legislation or jurisdiction is not so trusted, or it's not so straightforward for the investor. So they're going to anyway tell you that you need to be based somewhere, or you need to be at least like incorporated somewhere where it's more trustworthy. And that was the reason why, let's say 15 years ago, Estonian startups had to go and incorporate in Delaware, because that was, you
Right.
have to be accepted in that investor scene with your jurisdiction. So we have a lot of that. And then we have a lot of, let's say, just like market access. UK entrepreneurs are in a strange situation right now. They're, let's say they're importing and exporting with their UK company, but part of the goods are actually made in EU, and then they have to their UK company has to sell it both to the UK and EU, and the goods have to cross border several times, and there's taxing each time. So you might want to restructure somehow so that your businesses are in two places, because you want to have access to the EU single market. And also e-commerce is seeing a big rise right now, obviously from the kind of the Asian side, because of the VAT rules. And so there's many different reasons, but essentially either having a more trusted jurisdiction where you're in. A lot of countries are experiencing this kind of a political uncertainty, let's just say it that way, or they just want to have a more quicker, less red tape kind of business environment.
Yeah, no, I think those are all good reasons. And I know at the event that we went to there at Web Summit that there were a number of entrepreneurs talking about how e-residency had changed their business, had changed their lives. And of course, they shared their stories. But I was curious from your perspective, given that you work with so many companies out there, you've seen so many different scenarios and situations. What are some of the more interesting companies that have been founded or been taken to the next level through the e-residency program? Can you give us some examples?
Yeah, like one you heard at Web Summit, and that was these Spanish guys who basically gave up a permanent living space or pet place, and they just started really being digital nomads full time, thanks to the fact that they could run their business from anywhere. And later, they even founded an accounting software that actually is serving e-residency. It's based on Estonian e-residency. But I recently met a German fellow whose father was a gardener his whole life. They developed this product that is basically like, it looks like a bag, but it's a tree watering device. And they produce them in China. He likes to live in Bali himself, and those tree watering products, they are sold in Europe, mainly in Germany, even to public sector, for example. And just like the ease of running his business, through different jurisdictions under the Estonian company is what he enjoys. And then I always really feel kind of like emotional when I think about this one example that was in my sector years ago. There was a Turkish girl who was running a tourism business, and I guess Turkey's currency is not doing really well right now either, but it was a previous kind of crisis that they had, and he had trouble receiving money from his customers because she couldn't use PayPal, and like the tourism wasn't coming actually to Turkey. And then she founded an Estonian company and started expanding her business to like European cities, and it actually like saved her business in a way, because like she couldn't really do what she was doing in Turkey, and she ended up being an international tourism entrepreneur, which was a really inspiring story. And we have some NGO founders. We have people who have brought their Singaporean PR company to Europe as well with the help of e-residency, because it's just the easiest way to access the European market.
Yeah, those are a lot of great examples for why people should join this e-residency program. And I'm curious about what the steps are to actually get involved in that. It sounds like you were able to open a new business very quickly, but I suppose the process might be a bit different for folks that are not Estonian. So what does that look like for us?
Yeah, so if we can just log on, because we already have that card for everything that we do inside the country, then the e-residents, they first have to go to the PPA, which is our Police and Border Guard, their website, and actually apply for this card so that they would have this as the login. The application is reviewed, and since it is a government issued ID and has to be really, really secure, then the background is checked, and we basically take a little while to approve the application. It's on average, let's say 2-3 weeks at the moment that the Police and Border Guard can approve the application. And then we're going to send this card to the pickup location that is nearest to you. And we have over 50 pickup locations around the world, mostly in Estonian embassies. So Europe is covered quite well. We have some in the US. So you can pick up your card from what is closest to you. And last spring, we also opened 4 quite far away places that were very new. And these are not our embassies, but they are an external service provider that we use, a visa agency, which are in Singapore, Bangkok, South Africa, in Johannesburg, and also in Sao Paulo, Brazil. So four places where our embassies don't have presence, or actually Singapore does, but we are able to also issue cards there. So this card is sent to the embassy, and the embassy notifies you that it's there, and you have to show up there in person to give fingerprints, because it is a government issued ID. So it's nothing to be like worried about or scared about, but it's kind of like when you get your own passport, you pick up a new passport in your own country. And then when you have it, then the card will be activated within 24 hours. And then you have to download the signing software or some plugins or extensions to your browser that you're actually able to do it. And then you are able to start the company registration process. And one of the differences between local citizens or residents and the non-residents is that if the company is managed from abroad, then we require one compulsory service to be used by those people, and that is called contact person. And because the Estonian government will want to contact you in certain occasions, and the service can only be provided by licensed accounting or corporate service providers here in the country. And the address of that company will also become the legal address of your company in Estonia then. So basically, you have to choose somebody that you're going to work with to provide you with this contact person service. And these are private companies. We have gathered a range of them that we work with, and we kind of know their background, and we're able to say that they will not spread false information, or we're able to say that we have vetted them. And you can choose them on our website under the marketplace section. So marketplace is what we call like all these services that e-residents can use here inside Estonia that will help them. It also includes the fintechs that we work with, where you can open your business bank account. It also includes some of the Estonian banks that serve e-residents if your business is connected to Estonia more. And also some other nice cooperation things that we've set up, like, for example, AWS, Amazon Web Services, Activate program that e-resident companies can apply for. And so there's many things that we've gathered there. But basically, the first step is then to decide who you're going to work with, who's going to be your service provider here in Estonia. The service is not very expensive. It's around 200 euros a year, let's say, to have this contact person. And of course, you can choose to use the same company for your accounting, for example. And then you can do it yourself on the Estonian business registry site, which is accessible with the e-residency card. Or you can go to one of these service providers who have built an API-based connection to our business registry. So if you've chosen one like that it's actually, you don't actually have to go find out where this business registry is located. You can just do it through your service provider, and it works the same way. And you sign it digitally, and the company is usually established, let's say in 1 to 3 business days is the official term that we have to give you.
So maybe a couple more steps, but still very doable, still very, let's say relatively easy, given most of the, as you say, most of the more traditional bureaucracies, especially here in Europe, but certainly in countries around the world. So a lot of value there for anyone who's interested in doing so. But do you have any thoughts as to what some of the maybe other benefits are, or any potential challenges or things to watch out for as people are considering this program and going forward with it in terms of getting that digital ID, as well as potentially opening a company there in Estonia?
Mm-hmm. Well, the benefits are definitely the fact that you are opening so many more doors for you. If you're from outside of the EU, for example, because it's helping you to raise investments, it's helping you to access more partners or customers, especially if you're selling services to, let's say, big corporate customers, then obviously a company registered within the EU is more legit, is more respected. It's a chance for you to also apply for and get a lot of the EU grants and other support systems that are available for entrepreneurs. So it's basically opening a lot of doors for you, right? And on a personal level, I think the main thing is the convenience of it, that you can plan your life how you want to plan your life, because this is what I enjoyed a lot when I was an entrepreneur, that every winter, when it was the low season in tourism, I could spend a few months in a nicer, warmer place, like, for example, in Southeast Asia. And when I had to, check whether my tax reports were submitted or do anything that I had to do, I could do that online. And even my co-founder and I, we were sometimes working several time zones apart from each other, so that when he woke up, I had sent him a lot of stuff to work on or whatever. And when I woke up the next morning, then it was kind of like table tennis, So,
Right.
So you're just really flexible in terms of your personal choices, and you don't have to. I remember the last time I went to an Estonian institution for anything that had to do with my business was in 2007, when I think then to get a VAT number, you had to actually go physically to the tax office. But like since then, I have registered several companies and I have never had to go anywhere. So that's the benefit, right? So you could make your life choices how you want to make your life choices. You're not restricted to one country because you know that, oh, like I will have to go to the city office, or I will have to go to some place to get something signed, or go to the bank. Or so about the challenges, or how to say things that to consider is that e-residency and having a company in a different country is definitely not for somebody whose business is very locally based. Like let's say you're running a small bakery in a country, and your customers are the local people from the neighborhood. Then the e-residency is definitely not for you. It's for someone that's aiming for international reach. It's also not a way to avoid taxes, because the international taxation, it depends on where the company really has substance, or where the value is created, where you are managing the company from. So there's always a danger that your home country is actually wanting part of those taxes as well. So you have to be quite clear about what you're actually getting into. There are jurisdictions where people go to hide their incomes or their revenues. Estonia is definitely not one of those, because anything that you will do will have a digital footprint. So that's one thing that I always like to tell people, that even though Estonian tax system is very beneficial for entrepreneurs, if you are looking to really build a base here and you can take full advantage of it, then great for you, because then I definitely recommend it. You should try to come and build a base here if it's a bigger company. But if you are really just a one-man company, you have to kind of understand your liabilities in the country where you live as well. And it sometimes means that you pay in your home country, but Estonia has double tax avoidance agreements with many countries in the world. So you should not be paying tax on the same thing twice in two countries.
Yeah, that's a great point, and definitely worth people looking into more deeply before just going crazy and opening up a company tomorrow. So I'm really glad that you mentioned that, and I think it's an important point to talk about. So to that extent, I mean, it's really interesting that the Estonian government has embraced this. It was sort of a pioneer on this level, and I'm curious from your perspective, are you seeing, like, what sort of changes are you seeing in the market more broadly? Do you see any other countries trying to take on this type of activity or this type of problem, or doing it maybe in a different fashion? Doesn't have to be done in the same way, but do you have any big picture thoughts on where the world's headed in terms of becoming more digital, more remote, more open, more free, and so forth?
Well, definitely Estonia was the first, but we are not the only anymore, right? So I think one good thing that happened to the world during COVID was that the governments had to start making their services more accessible digitally and in online format. So that was, I think, one good thing that came from that finally now, it's starting to be possible in many other places as well. And obviously countries are always competing, because we're competing for the tax money, right? Or we're competing where the most entrepreneurs set up, and the ones that really do grow big, like, where are they located, right? So everybody's keeping their eyes out for this kind of a smart economy, potential future unicorns or whoever. So countries are really competing hard, and there are different initiatives around the world based on what the country is trying to promote. Some countries are trying to get people to move there, to live there. So they are figuring out schemes or offers or different kinds of promotions for the country that would make you actually physically move there. And then some countries are like Estonia are saying, like, we don't care if you come here, like you don't ever have to come here, right? But your business could still be in Estonia because you can access it from anywhere. So there's many different initiatives. I know Ukraine has introduced e-residency as well, but with a kind of a different goal, because they are a hothouse for IT subcontracting. So they are actually using e-residency to bring more workforce from countries that may have a lot of people, but not necessarily nice salaries. So they're using this also to bring more developers from developing countries, for example. And so there's all kinds of different initiatives that are going on in the world. And I think it's a good thing because although, yes, we do fear competition, but I think it's a good thing for everyone, right? So governments around the world are trying to somehow improve their services.
One other area that I wanted to ask about, just in terms of picking your brain a little bit, is, of course, you have much experience traveling the world, being a location-independent entrepreneur. You also built these tourism-focused businesses. And so where do you kind of see things going from here? Obviously, regulations and rules are changing on practically a daily, weekly, monthly basis. So it's really hard to say exactly where it's all going to shake out. But do you foresee, tourism and travel and everything else coming back in the near future? Do you think it'll be a little slower recovery even yet?
Well, it's an interesting question, right? Like people have been trying to predict the future for 2 last years, right?
Yep.
But what has happened, at least from what I see it, is like, when the COVID first hit in March 2020 in most of Europe, then people were saying that travel will never be the same. Like people will not travel like they used to, but people still want to travel like they used to, which is the funny part. Everybody I know, at least, is just like they're craving to go somewhere, to see something, to experience something different. But you have to figure out like how you can do it so that you don't go to the most crowded touristy places and you are at most risk with both the pandemic and also like other things. So I think what has happened is that people are actually doing more of these like workations, where they go to a place and they stay for a while. And this is what I've done. I have traveled with my 3 children. We last spring, when Estonia went into the second lockdown, we drove all the way from Estonia to Montenegro, and we lived there for 1.5 months. We worked from there. It was only 1 hour difference with Estonia, so totally fine. And because also big corporations are more and more, allowing their employees to not be in the same country all the time, not be in the same office all the time. So people are able to do this, and they're able to go to a place. And this year we're thinking of doing the exact same thing in April and May. And guess what? My friends' families are wanting to join me because they, everybody wants to get out. Everybody wants to go and discover and see. So, and I have not actually given up on traveling even. Last year, I think I was abroad 5 times altogether. So I.
That's great. If you can manage it, that's great. If you can manage all the testing and all the extra stuff that comes with it, it's still worth doing. Hopefully it'll be a little more easy and seamless. And as you said, if you can, take a car or something like that and go to a nearby country, or obviously even the same country, at least
and
you're able to do
car travel is what's become really more popular, I think, as well, because obviously, like in the States as well, like between the states, people have, really like stuck to their own kind of nearby national parks and gone more like local in terms of travel. And it's the same in Europe, because if you travel by land, there's still no border checks really within the EU. So
right, yeah, that sounds like a good strategy. So in closing, I'd love just to get any thoughts from your side, otherwise about, of course, the residency program, but also about becoming an independent, location-independent entrepreneur. And for people that are thinking about doing that, whether through the Estonian e-residency program or otherwise, would just love to, just get any final thoughts or words of advice or encouragement for our audience.
Well, I think one of the things to ask for yourself is that even if today, let's say, you are working for a big corporation and what you're doing is quite, how to say, restricted, like you have to do things in a certain way, and you don't have this very flexible lifestyle, is to look with open eyes and heart, like what am I good at, and how could I make my talent or my passion into something that other people or companies will want to pay for, and that's I think what's gonna enable or empower so much of that location independence is if you discover something like that about yourself, that what is it that I'm really good at and what can I actually sell, and this is gonna enable everything else, because nobody needs you to register a company for registering a company, but you actually have to do something that will change somebody's life or make a company's process better or whatever it is, right? So
it's not just about creating the corporate entity, it's about making a little revenue, right? So I think that makes sense. And
all the entrepreneurs I personally know, even if they're doing something that you listen to and you're like, it's so boring, they are absolutely convinced that this is the most amazing thing after sliced bread, and it's it's the passion that drives entrepreneurs, and this is what I love about this job too, is that we get to see a lot of those people.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, that's kind of how I thought in short about Expat Empire as a concept, was moving to these different countries. I was working as a product manager. I was never really getting too much into the loving the product itself, which is a bit hard to say as an ex-PM, but at the same time, I just looked big picture eventually, and I was like, well, what is the common thread here? And it's like my love of being abroad, my love of going to these different countries and traveling, and really trying to then think about how I could help other people to have those same experiences. And that's where it's kind of born. And it wasn't that I was a product manager, it was like the bigger connecting thread across all of those experiences was this trying to find the job in the next country, and where did I want to move to next, or where was my next vacation or travel. So I think, as you said, that's a really good way to kind of sum it up in terms of how people can start that whole process and do a little soul searching and figuring out ultimately their first customers, their first products and services, and going from there.
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for joining the podcast today. It's been a pleasure hearing about your experience as an entrepreneur all over the world, and also about the eResidency program. So if there's anywhere that people can find out more information about the program, or of course to connect with you, please let us know.
Yeah, I think the easiest is that if you're really wanting to know more, then you should go to eresident.gov.ee or just Google Estonian eResidency. You are able to join one of our monthly Q&As. You're able to watch some tutorial videos or read some how-to articles on our website. But I'm also comfortable with people reaching out to me on LinkedIn, because I've been in the last couple of months realizing that people who are really thinking about relocating their business to Estonia, they have some very specific questions. So I'm happy to just hop on a call and answer these very specific questions as well as I can, or at least direct you to the right place, who could help you or where you could look for the answer. So if you look me up on LinkedIn, I'll be happy to connect.
Perfect. Well, I'll definitely put all those links in our show notes. Thanks again for the conversation, and look forward to keeping in touch.
Thanks for inviting.
Hey guys, don't forget to like our video, subscribe to our channel, and leave your comment below. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Expat Empire. We help people to move abroad through our personalized consulting services. For more information, check out expatempire.com. Thanks, and see you soon.